people in this room, I'm sure, know about Mu Sigma. But I think it's interesting to sort of begin from the beginning. It is said that you sort of sold your house near Chicago and used that as seed capital to start your venture. Back then, 2005, big data was not necessarily a trendsetter or buzzword. In fact, the first panel, a lot of panelists were arguing that it is still the enigma for the technology industry till now. What were you thinking then? And could you perhaps establish the relevance for big data for this audience?
Yeah, so I actually, if I was in the last panel, I would have been, they would have hit me, they would have, thrown some eggs at me or something like that, because I would be saying everything that is opposite of what they're saying. And I still believe in a lot of things which are opposite of what they're saying, and I enjoy doing that.
What are those things?
First thing I feel is that, this concept of, big data being described as a lot of data, volume, velocity, veracity, variety. I hate it. I hate that whole description of it. And the biggest reason for that is any time you describe something by what, you're not going to get to the essence of it. If you really want to understand something, you have to try to get to the why.
What is your positioning? I mean, there's so many big data companies out there also, and you sort of seem to have stood out. So there's Fractal, there's Absolute, the companies like Cloudera, Scalarc. Yeah. Where would you see yourself as positioned?
I've never tried to position myself in any one of those things. I'm not in the positioning business. We believe, that this whole stack, right? If you want to look at what's happening in the world. The one thing that's happening in the world is, and that's always been the trend, case, is change. And change is happening faster and faster and faster and faster. Our perspective is that for anything to be alive, things need to be in a state of flow, which is you need to have some amount of order and some amount of entropy in it. It needs to be in that mixture of order and entropy, which enables you to feel more and more alive. So you see organizations as they become big, they say we've lost our mojo. To some extent, that's because they lose some amount of entropy in that, and they become too much focused on order. On the other hand, you have if you have only entropy, then you don't have any direction. So there's always been this case where you need a mixture of those two things. And what does that mean to be in a state of flow? We felt that there were some basic governing principles. And we've been able to articulate what we felt at that time much better now. If we were able to articulate it really as good as we are able to articulate it, Subrata would have, we've been able to get more money from Subrata, which we didn't. So if you didn't have any more money at that time. But there were three governing principles that came out of this one Uber thought of flow. One is that, and the first one with the why, is that learning is going to become more important than knowing. What does that mean? What that means is that the companies that have been built with knowledge as a perspective are going to die. The word expert is going to become a negative, because you're going to stop asking questions when you're an expert. So learning is going to become more important than knowing. Learning is d by dt of knowledge. And the perspective that one needs to be verticalized. I heard one of the panelists talk about that. I'm completely against that, because I think the next generation of businesses are going to be built by things that are going to be disrupted from things coming outside. Zappos as a company was built by a bunch of guys who had nothing to do with shoes. Industries have been changed from people from outside mostly. That's basic law of disruption, is that disruption happens always from outside. So learning is going to become more important than knowing. The second thing, which is that we all feel we know more than we actually do. And we like to talk about it far more easily, as if we know. And I feel that the companies of the future will be focused on extreme experimentation. If you can bring down the cost of experimentation, you are better off. So figuring out a way to bring down your cost of experimentation and try new things faster and faster and faster is going to become very, very important. And it's not expertise, but rather experiments that are going to determine who's going to win. The third perspective is that, this is what we know. It is our intellectual property. That thing is going to die. The new IP is no more intellectual property. It is actually interdisciplinary perspective.
What does that mean?
So that means you have to bring multiple things together. You have to combine things that have not been combined before. You have to combine math, business, technology, design thinking, behavioral science, things that I don't even know right now but need to be combined. It is going to be all khichdi or avial or undiyu, So it's going to be that. And it has to come together very nicely. So that perspective is going to become very, very important. So these three perspectives, learning over knowing, extreme experimentation, the new IP, is going to mean that you have to think of this space which people have for a shorthand called big data, not as a lot of data, but as representing these facets. And that representation comes from the fact that you can think of, if you think of data as the new oil, then you're going to have data engineering, which is all the plumbing that's going to connect that oil, move it from one place to another. You're going to do whatever it takes to connect that oil. You're going to have data science, which is the refining, which is, I'm going to clean that oil up. I'm going to use a combination of math, technology, whatever it takes to help solve focus problems or point problems, problems where the solution might be very, very complex, but the problem yet is very, very clear. But in the real world that we live in, there are very few, very few clear problems. Most problems are extremely muddy. And in fact, you need to be a little bit foolish to learn in that space. I believe that the foolish intelligents are going to be more interesting than the intelligent fools. So that means in that space, in the space of muddy problems, you need not just math and technology, but business context, behavioral science, design thinking, all of these combining together to help you make that better decisions. And this stack, right, data engineering, data science, and decision science is going to work together. I am a big believer in the fact that in this space, the products of tomorrow are not going to be built the way they have been built like before. I liked what a person asked a question. Nobody answered that question, but I want to answer that question because that's a great question, which is the fact that in a world where problems are so muddy, we don't know what problem to solve. Why do we raise $20 million and then figure out what product to build, right? Which the product may or may not solve. It may solve some variant of that problem, and if you get lucky, great. And I think a lot of money is going to go because the private equity and VC guys are thinking with the old paradigm of product versus service, rather than product and service in harmony.
You sort of laid out the governing principles, how you think of the organization. You sort of said about those three principles. I'm sure that is also reflected in the way you hire. So what is your hiring process? So how do you sort of make sure that they sort of align to all those three?
Yeah, my head of sales, I'll just give you examples.
Sure.
Right? My head of sales used to be a controller.
Controller of what?
Controller of finance.
Okay.
Why? Because I felt that for us, the sales process had to be codified and you have to put a solid process in place that, we needed to govern that process, in and out. So we never hired based on expertise. My head of innovation, was a customer. Typically, you don't hire your customer because you lose your, you lose revenues. And we did that about 7 years ago. And we said that, look, I don't mind losing this customer because this is important for us because we need people who can think like this, and that's very, very important. My head of product is a guy who's more into spirituality than anything else.
And he's the head of products.
He's the head of product. His name is Dipinder. He and I talk about why certain religions are formed certain ways and all of those kind of things. My head of talent management used to be in the Indian Navy.
It's quite an interesting assortment.
Yeah, and those are the only people who listen to me. So.
So how do you judge them? I mean, I've heard also from some people that you have something to test the right part of the brain, the left side of the brain. What are those tests? Why do you do all of that? So and somewhere it was written that in your initial days you would sort of really believing in your gut to hire people. Are you sort of more into more process or data oriented now as you become a larger entrenched company?
Look, we have to scale. Scale is a very important part of life. Why scale is important is that you don't make like one drop of rasam and say that I made the one drop of rasam, I made it the best rasam. If you can't feed a village, you're useless. So scale is a very, very important part of life in general, so we've always valued that. The clear perspective towards scale is that you can, and our belief system, which is learning over knowing, extreme experimentation, interdisciplinary perspective means that you're also thinking, thinking a little bit differently about this whole process of who are the people. And we realize that, the problem starts actually far, far ahead of us. The problem starts in the education system. We've never, and by the way, it's not just in India, it's everywhere else in the world. We've never been tested or trained for what are the questions that we ask. In fact, I was talking to my 11-year-old, he's my biggest teacher, because he's the least corrupt. And I asked him, do you like going to school? He said, why would I like going to school? And I asked him, okay, I mean, like, there's a lot of your friends there and everything. I think that's the good part of going to school. But, don't they allow you to ask good questions? He says, yeah, they allow us to ask good questions. If you ask one or two questions, they like us. But if you ask, more than two questions, they say, Akash, don't be a smart aleck, right? So the perspective is that we've not been trained on asking questions. And to change the world, to change anything in life, you have to be consistently asking good questions.
So how do you test it? I mean, how have you managed to sort of hire so many PhDs working for you?
We don't. Actually, we are a big believer in not hiring PhDs. So, if they happen to have a PhD, we'll then cure them. But
so tell us more about your recruitment.
So that's a different issue.
So tell us more about your recruitment process.
So, our perspective, again, as I said, is about the questioning mentality, the inquisitiveness. That's going to be important. We are creating more talent in this space than anybody else. Mm-hmm. You go and ask any analytics company, they'll have Musigma people in them.
Sure.
And we have to build not just for ourselves, but for the entire industry. Mm-hmm. So the perspective.
You apparently also get people to watch a Japanese film and perhaps put some questions together.
Yeah. Let me tell you how we do it.
Yeah.
So,
Specifics.
You should all do this, then you won't have to depend on me. So the way we do this is first of all we believe that in a non-expertise mindset, right? The second thing that we do. And that perspective is very important and ingrained in everything that we do. So we start with a little bit of an intellectual horsepower test, just to make sure that you can do the basics well, and you can think in a structured manner. After that, we'll put you through like a group discussion, and we test. In the group discussion we mostly put people through a very, very controversial way of testing group discussions. We will like say, should we give Kashmir back to Pakistan? Should the prostitution be legalized? What do you think of homosexuality? These are the kind of questions that we like to ask and especially that really tests for harmony between right brain and left brain thinking. Between the group discussion, we'll tell them, okay, I know you're talking about this. I know your point of view. Why don't you argue for the other side, right? So we kind of do those kind of things. The next thing we do is we make them watch a video and then synthesize that. We make them watch a video, it'll be like 10 minutes, and give them a piece of paper which is a little bit bigger than your business card. And then they have to synthesize everything in that small piece of paper. And then eventually a fit interview, which tests for curiosity more than anything else. So these are all things that we do, and then we hire young people and just create an environment that allows them to thrive,
Sure.
which is very, very important, which keeps the energy inside. And that's the reason why we are doing.
Interesting. I think we heard about your governing principles, how you hire, the culture within the organization. There's a huge focus on curiosity and positiveness. Talk about where do you go from here. There's another argument that Mu Sigma is a lot about body shopping. I mean, it comes from investors not invested in Mu Sigma.
Yeah.
The outside perspective. What is next from you? Because the argument there is that technology, by the way it is, it is very prone to irrelevancy.
When they see our financial profile, and they'll very soon see it more openly, they will not have any doubts about who we are. See, I'll tell you the difference between all the existing paradigms, and why I believe those paradigms don't work. So you have to be a little bit patient with me.
Sure.
So you've been very patient so far.
Okay.
So see, the business and technology combined together to make IT happen, right? Business and math combined together make consulting happen. I used to work at Booz Allen Hamilton, McKinsey, BCG, Bain, Booz Allen. Science of business, right? The technology of business is IT. The science of business is management consulting. And math and technology, in some ways, have combined to create products. Products, by the very nature, are not flexible, right? You make it for one problem at a time. If the problem changes, you're screwed, right? Consulting, by the very nature, is not scalable because you have to solve it with people, right? IT, by the very nature of how much process gets built into it, is not agile. But in a world of tomorrow, where you need to be not thinking about one or two big problems, but many small problems that are connected with each other, you need a combination of scalability, flexibility, and agility. You need a combination of math, business, and technology combining together. And each of these religions, right, consulting, product, systems integrator, we've made them into religions. And these religions and all are like, these religions have to be followed. Consulting, we have to do it this way. We have to wear a khaki pant, a white shirt, a blue coat, and we have to gel our hair, and it'll have 3 spikes, right? So product, we'll wear shorts, we won't shave our face, we will ask for a obscene valuation without anything in our hand, and they will give it to us.
Whom are you hinting at?
I mean, everybody. So I'm talking about, so, or...
Come on, your investor is right there.
Let me finish. So, I'm not even done. So, or IT, which is like a lot of I can solve a problem as long as you tell me everything about the problem, and there can be no doubts about what the problem is. And if there's any doubt, I will not solve that problem. So so that world is not going to work. So each people have to learn from another. What if we had a world where every religion learned from 2 other religions? Hinduism learned from Islam and Christianity. Christianity learned from Buddhism and something else. What if every religion was learning from each other? Wouldn't that be a great world? What if consulting was automated? What if product was more anthropological? What if systems integrator figured out how to become more agile? That perspective is what we believe in. And therefore, the paradigm is very different. The consulting model is the Superman paradigm. Right? McKinsey, BCG, Bain, Booz Allen, IBM, Accenture working at $300 to $500 per hour. The product paradigm is the giant robot paradigm. What we are building is the Iron Man paradigm. Right? We have a suit that we have created, and then we have a human being that goes into it. Instead of a Mr. Geeky, Mr. Cool, Miss Tony Stark, we have more like a Mr. Geeky, Mr. Spock. Right? And that man-machine ecosystem is what we are building, which is very, very different, and that shows in our financials. Look, look at who all have been associated with Mu Sigma. The guys who are today called Axel, right? The guys who funded Google, PayPal, YouTube, Sequoia Capital. The guys, General Atlantic, one of the biggest, not just venture capital, but growth equity company. These guys are not fools, right? And if they have put money into us, the guys who put money into Google and the guys who put money into Facebook have put money into us, and they are backing us, and they have been fantastic investors in Mu Sigma. And I can say this right in front of them, both of them are here, and you should think about what we are doing different and why our financial profile is different.
So why is it different? You just mentioned about...
I just told you all those
yeah,
things.
so this Iron Man machine that you said, how are we
Yeah.
plugging that back into your system? Can you be a little more specific about
So
that?
yeah, absolutely.
You're
So
building the company for the future.
yeah, so we are building a company for the future here, and we're changing the paradigms of how products are going to be built, how services are going to be done, how IT is going to be done. We're changing that full paradigm completely.
So what kind of products?
So the first thing we've done is we've solved the education problem. We are a big shot on the education system. My goal is, if I could, which I can't because I'll be legally in jail, I would like to take 10th graders into Mu Sigma because they're wasting their time after 10th grade, right? So my goal, that they won't allow me to do that, So, I'm seeing if any country allows us to do that, we'll go there. But our perspective is that hire young people, give them solid training in asking good questions, coming up with better, more curiosity, and build them frameworks for questions. So we've created tools for how to come up with better questions. So that's a tool that we've come up with. We have a tool called Mu ESP, which is an enterprise signal platform, which is constantly looking at real-time data and seeing this. But we think of all of these as Lego blocks and not we care less about the solutions, we care more about the problems, because the answer lies within the question. That perspective is very, very important, and that's in our belief system, and we don't have to worry about how we are going to use all of these Lego blocks and build the next generation Iron Man suit. And this will constantly keep changing because we are learning faster than anybody else. We are with 140 Fortune 500 customers, growing at about 10 customers per quarter, right? And we're still growing at a fast clip, right? We're the largest in this space. So which means that, why is that interesting? Not because of our size, because we are crossing 10,000 hours 10,000 times. And that means that we are learning faster than anybody else. And we are not beating people on the first derivative. We are beating people on the second derivative, right? If we beat people on learning, that means that every second the gap between us and the others are coming. We got started after everybody else. We are the last ones to get started. 2005. All the guys who were before us. IBM, Accenture, all of these guys were doing big data much before us. Fractal was in 2000, right? So Absolute Data was before us. Everybody was before us. How come we are, 7, 8 times their size in revenue? How come we are having a better margin profile? How come we are doing all of that? So you want to say whatever you want, you can say about us. But our financial profile is going to come out, and when it comes out, you will make your own judgment. Until that comes out, we don't care. We are not a B2C company. We don't care. We are a B2B company. The only people who need to care about us are our customers.
Interesting. You said about a financial profile coming out. So is there like a plan to exit to your investors? I mean, is it an IPO, M&A? What is it? So how will it come out, financial profile?
It could multiple ways. An IPO could be there, a potential in the next 3 to 4 years. I'm not a big believer in going public overall, because I feel it slows down the kind of decisions that you can make. And I'm the type of guy who likes to take a very contrarian approach to life, as you can see already, which means that going public will not be easy for.
But your investors would sort of press for something, a liquidity event.
Yeah, I'll have to convince them that this is better off that way. Look, I think if you are building a great company, some of these guys just want you to do it.
Oh, come on. Investors are investors.
I'll show you emails from Mike Moritz.
That's fine.
I'll show you emails.
They have invested and they have to make money, and that's what they have to answer to their LPs, right?
Yeah.
So what is the exit you have promised to your investors?
I think the first thing is that you want to be able to show them that you're building something which is valuable. The second thing is you have to be willing to build a business that you can afford to buy them out a little bit. We have always done that. We've always believed that an investor is here, he's here, he's called an investor because he needs return on investment. And that is something that is a very valuable thing for us. And so therefore at all points of time, you have to be able to create an ecosystem that is profitable and that is creating enough free cash flows and that can allow investors at all points of time to say, hey, you can have some partial exits, you can have other investors come in who may see a different thing, and that churn you need to keep in perspective. It's not a bad thing.
Interesting. Can you talk a little about your expansion plans? And also, a lot of technology companies also tend to incubate some companies within their ecosystem. It could be like the corporate venture capital arm or incubating startups just to sort of, acquire new growth or new technologies. Would you also be thinking in that direction? Because can you just give us a little more specific examples of maybe countries you are expanding to, or some kind of top line number that you have in mind for next fiscal?
So, we wouldn't like to talk about that here. But as far as corporate venture capital and all of those things go, we're just too busy to be distracted. The kind of growth that we are having means that we will have to, just keeping our, mind on this is itself a big thing. And I'll say this to all entrepreneurs, right? I believe that there is, 3 tests that you will go through. I call it the first grade, second grade, and third grade of entrepreneurship. My perspective is the first grade is kind of clarity. You need to know what you're doing, and you need to have a complete clarity, and you need to always be seeking more and more clarity. One thing about Mu Sigma is that, I don't think we were as clear about what we were starting in the beginning. I can assure you of that. But every day we always asked ourselves, can we get more clarity? Can we get more clarity? So that's the first thing. Second thing is focus. If you're lucky enough to get your clarity in your life, you'll get the clarity you deserve. So if you're lucky enough to get that clarity, then can you have the focus, which is that you'll be willing to say no to a lot of things. And that perspective is going to become very, very important. And so in this case, some of these things, like cool things like corporate venture capital and all of those things, could be some of those distractions for us. And the third thing is, if you have both of those, then it's perseverance, because you will be tested. In this journey that we've had, which has been growing, nearly doubling and tripling initially, and then doubling our revenues. You won't believe this, in 2008, we had a case where we lost 40% of our entire revenues in 1 year. You just imagine, one of our customers, basically who was a company in the pharma space, they came to us and they said, you know what, we know that you work with a lot of other pharma companies. They were a service provider. So they basically came to us. They were a data service provider, so they sold data. So they basically said, you know what, we don't want you to work with other pharma companies, work through us. And we know that you have a lot of your revenues coming from us. So, that's it. If you don't, you lose this revenue. 2008, imagine what was happening in 2008.
It was a downturn time?
The banks were all falling, and it was not an easy time to raise money. It was all of those things. So we had 2 choices. Right? One was to accept what these guys say, and then, okay, give up one industry, saying that in this industry we won't do anything else. Or we could actually take the path less taken and be bold about it and say, it's okay, 40% of our revenue this year gone, that's okay. At that same time, we had an offer. We had multiple offers, to always, the people who had approached us
to buy you out.
To buy us out and all of those things. So when all of these things were happening, we took the path which was the hardest, which is, we said no to that customer, we said no to many investors, and continued to build the company, because we believed that we were building something that was changing the world. And that perspective is very, very important. See, between right and wrong, everybody will choose right. That's not should you be a robber or should you be a policeman? I'll be a policeman. So that's easy to make. Should you, between the less easy right, easy but less right, and the hard more right, that's when the difficulty actually happens. Very little people have that perspective of, people take the easy right. Why? What is the easy right here? Oh, let's build a product company. What is the easy right here? Let's build something that people will understand. What's the easy right here? Let's build something that we can raise money easily with, because they'll be Every day I have an argument sometimes with my board. The board will say, you know what, I know you say all of these things, but it'll be easier if you can say it in this easy way so that people can understand it more easily. But you know what, that dilutes what we are saying, right? And that perspective to stick to what you believe in, you need to be, you need to be a little bit, pig-headed a little bit as an entrepreneur. So that, but at the same time, you need to have people around you who will kick you, once in a while.
Some rapid fire questions. If you were to name like 3 or 4 companies out of India in analytics space which you admire besides Musicma, are there such companies?
I think there are. There are companies.
Can you give me like 3 companies in that pecking order of admiration? 1, 2, 3.
No, I think I look at Flipkart as an analytics company. I don't think of it as a retailer.
But is that like, how does it feel, when you hear Flipkart raising money at $7 billion valuation?
It feels, that, okay, now we have to
wish
raise,
I could have done that.
No, I wish, now it's okay, now it's about 8 billion, we have to raise it at 8 now. No, I'm a very competitive
So when is the next
person.
fundraising happening?
No, I'm joking here, guys. So, but I think it's great, right? Look, these are amazing people who have done that. They've had amazing people around them also. So I think it's a great story. I think, and they're getting a lot. They've faced a lot of flack in their story.
Yeah.
So every time one of those stories come up, I have at least picked up sent an email, to the founders saying that, boss, you guys are changing the world. Keep going. So
So besides Flipkart.
I think Flipkart is a very interesting company. I like Just Dial.
No, come on, you are giving me, give me companies in your sector.
I'll tell you, you're not understanding. You're not understanding because you are thinking of analytics just as people who are going to you are perceived in a certain way. But all of these companies are changing the world.
Tell me a competition. I'll rephrase it.
I would call,
or you have no competition?
No, I would call Palantir. It's a very interesting company. I don't know if you've heard of them. They are based out of Palo Alto, but they're based everywhere now. They're in Singapore. We have competed with them in Singapore and all of those guys. A lot of our philosophies actually are quite similar with respect to learning over knowing, extreme experimentation, all of those things. They also are very, very highly oriented towards thinking about these things. But there's one major difference. The big difference is that I think they believe in solving 1 or 2 big problems for the world. And as long as those 2 big problems are there, we'll invest as much as possible to solve those problems. Whereas we have believed in solving many small problems together. And that difference also comes from maybe from the fact that they started from the government side and they were funded by the CIA. See, in the end of the day, you want to look at a company like ours, you're not going to find an immediate match because of all the things I said, right? We are operating with a different paradigm. So don't try to have a lookalike model. Think from first principles.
That's a problem. In India, I might choose to call myself anything, but when you become public,
that's
or whatever,
good. No, everybody wants to be
there are
Kapoor.
research analysts who will pit you against market comparables.
It's okay.
So we might think we are whatever, but there are comparables in the market available.
Good. I think we'll have to. All companies who have done something important have gone through this phase. And the more important you are, you'll I think have less lookalikes.
Can you tell us a little about the data center that you're building?
So we, I don't know if it's a data center. What we are doing is, I think in the next 3 to 4 years, we are going to do something in, one of my dreams, I don't know if it's possible, but is to build this thing called a big data city.
What's that?
So I'd like to have sensors in my office. I'd say, if you go to any of these offices right now, you'll have a security guard who will check you, then another security guard who will check you again, then third guy, fourth guy, fifth guy, all of those things. I'd like to be able to build something which is all about decision sciences. I'm not talking about big data here. Again, I don't like that word. I like the word decisions because they are going to be there when big data is gone, right? Decisions are going to be there. and I want to be about how people make decisions and bringing the art, science, and scale together, right? The art part of it, the design, business understanding, the science part of it, the applied mathematics, statistics, econometrics, operations, research, the scale part of it, process. Process is not such a bad thing. So bringing all of these together and building something, and one thing that we would love to do in the next 3 to 4 years is to build this thing called the Big Data City.
So would you be raising money for that?
We don't need to. When you understand our financial profile, you will.
So what is it? Tell me now.
I can't tell you.
So are you part of the $1 billion club yet?
$1 billion in what?
Revenues.
We're not going to. No, we are not. Absolutely not.
I think you closed about $300 million last year, is what is reported.
I'm not going to talk about that.
So IPO or M&A? You said IPO. So India listing or abroad?
I don't know is the right answer. Because see, frankly speaking, I think so many things are changing in the world. I think the world tomorrow is going to mean that private money is going to be better than public money. The world tomorrow means that the cost of raising public money may be so high that you can maybe build better companies with private money than public money. So I don't know. We have to look at this by first
Private
principles.
money also comes at a cost.
Lesser cost nowadays than public money, because see, the governance is less. You don't have to publicly tell about everything that you're doing. You don't have to explain to thousands of people who will never understand.
My last question to you, what keeps you awake in the night? Any limiting factors that you see in the growth of your company? And I'm sure there is to every business.
Yeah, lots of things. I'm very paranoid generally in life.
We can see that.
Yeah, so I feel that we've not done enough. We're doing work in things that people are, with drones and how those things will be used in. If you come to our offices, we can show you. As long as you are not competition, we'll show you. We'd love to show you all of those things. So please come and see. I would love to invite all of you to Whitefield. That's where we have our offices, and we can show you all of these things. So I think those are, which means that the customers, we move from under acceptance to over expectation very, very quickly. So managing that bipolar nature of the customer is going to be important. The third thing is, the commercialization of, many of the new things that we are bringing together with an interdisciplinary perspective than an intellectual property perspective.
Absolutely. I think let's hear it up for Dhiraj Rajaram for sharing his incredible story with us.
Thank you.